I am a storyteller. Storyteller. Now I say storyteller instead of liar, because there's a heap of difference between a storyteller and a liar. A liar, that's somebody taking cover things over, mainly for his own private benefit. But storytelling now, that's somebody which are taking uncover things so everybody can get some good out of it. Yeah, I'm a storyteller. Heap of good meaning be found in the story. You got the mind to hear. I approach almost everything through the lens of story and storytelling. Because I find that what happens when you get to telling stories and working through metaphor rather than argument, people come to shared understanding more quickly. They start to going, oh, I understand, that happened to me too. Let me tell you what happened to me. And then boom, boom, boom. And so I don't think it's accidental that most of the great holy books, for an example, are in fact simply collections of stories. When I finally decided I was going to work in the arts, didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but finally decided that I would be a playwright, and finally decided after that that the context in which I would begin my life and work after school was in the civil rights movement. And when we decided we'd make a theater, I found other people to work with and so forth. And I found myself really worried that there was little coherency in the way people think about art. Mm-hmm. It was incoherent. You know, if it wasn't about making money, that was the only consistency I could see. Mm. And I remember telling my dad when I came home and said I was going to be a playwright, he said, frankly, son, what do you intend to do for a living? I wanted to be a writer myself once. But I said, I don't intend to work for a living. I intend to live for my work. I've been struggling to find the way art contributes to the way people live and solve problems ever since. And I was always disappointed when most people I've met who are trying to do art displayed, to my judgment, little interest in aesthetics and how they work and how we fit into, except as a little tinkering things, you know, but not what is the meaning of art in the context of life in our efforts to confront and solve problems. Mm. So that's where that's what keeps me on this road, trying to figure it out. We invited Doris over to dinner. By this time, Gilbert and I shared an apartment. She came over that night, and we were just talking. Gilbert and I both had this habit at the time, shaking the knee and smoking cigarettes. And we were sitting at a table, the room was blue with smoke. And Doris said, well, if theater means anything anywhere,
It should certainly mean something here. Why don't we start a theater? The legs stopped rocking. Gilbert's legs stopped rocking. We looked at each other. We looked at Doris. We looked back at each other. Why not? We called it the Free Southern Theater because that was the summer of the Mississippi Project. We had the Freedom Labor Union. We had the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. We had, everything was free something or other, you know, and the statewide project, we had things going on all over the place. And it was just a logical thing that popped out of Doris's mouth. Free, why don't we make a free Southern theater? And that's what name it clearly wanted to have. And so we rode with it.
If you're willing, I'm gonna tell a few stories aimed to draw pictures in your mind. See, what I do, I go around watching what people be doing and listening what they be saying. Then go around telling stories to whosoever want to hear.
The students at Howard brought their character, Dr. Junebug Jabbo Jones, to the movement with them. And Dr. Junebug Jabbo Jones was a way of poking fun at those stuffed shirt professors who professed more than they taught or studied to teach. You know, the probability is that most of them bought their degrees from some rinky-dink school and perhaps even forged the diploma. So he's a dumb, disgraceful person, you know. But when they came south to work in the movement with their character, the stories seem funny the first time before you realize who's being poked fun at, because that character speaks with a Mississippi dialect, because the people, I was in Mississippi when I started writing this stuff, and I started realizing, yeah, that's good. And so I used Southwest Mississippi dialect. And I began to realize, and the kids who brought the Junebug with them also began to realize that by poking fun at these rural characters, you're really not doing anybody a favor, because the people in those rural regions that became the focus, gradually shift from professors over to grassroots farmers and hometown people, like Simple, you know, and they begin to realize the people who support the movement are not these stuffy professors. They are home people, homegrown grassroots people, who they are the ones who risk their lives. They are the ones who, and we started saying, I started realizing, geez, and Snick generally started realizing Junebug was not a hardy-tardy country bumpkin fool, but he was a hero. And I said, that's Junebug. But the first Junebug play evolved in in 1979, and I started doing touring with Junebug, and you know, and when I the story circle process was evolving at the same time, so I just started encouraging people to tell me stories and listen to stories, and depending on who it was, you know, if I knew what I was looking for, I would know the people I wanted to hear tell stories. But if I didn't know exactly what I was looking for, I would just look for whatever I could find, you know, and you find the best stuff when you're not looking for it, you know. At any rate, I started doing story circles after every performance, as a matter of fact. Because I noticed, there's an interesting thing about that. I noticed that when we used to do discussions after performances, but what I noticed in the discussions first was that there were some people who loved to talk so much that they would just dominate the sessions. So I started thinking, we got to get some way to compress the time that they would take up. And then I introduced the idea of sitting more in a circle and keeping I'd suggest a 3-minute time limit for each of us, you know. And that was just a suggestion. It wasn't a hard and fast rule. So that worked pretty good. But then I noticed there was still a lot of dulls and pointless arguments coming up. And then I noticed that when people told stories, you know, the room brightened up and the discussion got hot. Somebody else would have a matching story over here. This one would have oh yeah, and you know, the room would get hot like that. And I said, damn, that's the way to go. Tommy Too Tough Tucker is my doggone name. I'm the bebop popper, that's my claim to fame. Talk so much jive, it's a crying shame. Might have heard it from the others, but it's not the same. So our job is to produce art which supports and encourages people who are trying to make change. And so that that's what gives the art its path, its direction. I would say the most important thing is to honestly examine and confront what's going on in our society, and to examine it with a ruthless honesty with ourselves, with our audiences, with our critics, with our students. You know, what can we do? How can we make it better? And the same value applies to the art of it. I don't see art as separate from values, you know. Run to the city, gonna get some money. Run to the city, gonna find his honey. Run out of money, run out of hope. No money, no hope. Potato. Tatum. It's the potato ham bone blues. That's what that is.
And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord. segregation, no segregation, no segregation, no segregation over me, and before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free and be no more dogs, no more dogs, no more dogs, no more biting me biting me, and before I'll be a slave.
I'm John O'Neill, and when I grow up, I'm going to be a playwright.